right, everybody, we're going to get started.
From May.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The roll call, please, Amy.
Mr. Anise?
Present.
Mr. Vova? Mr. Brodsky?
Here.
Mr. Coyne?
Here.
Mr. D'Elia?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Haskell? Mr. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Mutolo? And Ms. Sesney?
Here.
Thank you.
You have the draft July 17, 2023 minutes in your packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any comments, corrections, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The first resolution we have is release of easement on State Route 12. Who's doing that, Pep?
Is this going to be Dan or Ken?
Yep. This action involves the release of an easement located on the west side of New York State Route 12 and north of Brinfield Street in the town of New Hartford that allows the Consolidated Water Company of New York to divert flow from the Crow Hill Brook to fill the Crow Hill Reservoir through the construction of a dam and conveyance channel. However, the dam and conveyance project was abandoned in 1917. The easement provides no current value or benefit to the Muck Valley Water Authority, and there is interest in developing a solar field in the area of the easement.
Let's see. So we have a resolution and the release itself.
Right.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, where is this located?
By Humphreys Farm?
Oh,
Up by Tibbetts Road?
Yeah.
Where? Tibbetts Road, up by Route 12, where you take the left turn to get on Tibbetts Road. Humphreys Farm's right on that corner.
But they go way up.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, where you can't
And
see.
that's what we're talking about, right? Dan?
That's right.
Anyways, it's useless to us. Anything else, Vince?
no. Who does it go to once we
The heirs of
release it?
Kleiman.
Well, the,
It releases Humphreys from the easement, so it's just their land again,
yeah, it's their
without
land.
being
and
encumbered.
we just had an easement, and they can't do anything on it as long as we have an easement.
That's correct.
Or build around this,
That's right.
which,
I think you should give us one of his Corvettes in exchange.
I'm wondering about the head of cattle, whether or not
we
we
can
can
get a return. 5 horses,
Yeah, right. If there aren't any other questions, someone care to move the resolution as presented? Thanks, Vince. Thanks, Rich. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The next resolution regards the demolition of Gilbert Road tank.
I'll give you a quick introduction, then I'll turn it over to Dan. But this is a tank that was decommissioned. It's empty. It was slated for demolition, but as recently as last year, some of the paint started flaking off of it. We found it was lead-based paint. It was getting into nearby backyards. We did a little bit of an environmental cleanup. We did some short-term remediation on it at the time. And now with Dan coming on board, it's been scheduled for demolition, and he can tell you it's been put out to bid. You want to?
Correct. Yep. And we had the bid came in, and the low bidder was Ritter and Parator Contracting Company. They're a local company. And as Pat had alluded to, it's a maintenance issue for us, and it's always been now that it's been disconnected from our water distribution system and emptied, it makes sense to move forward with taking it down and restoring the property.
This has been a long-term item on our capital projects plans. We have the money for it, which is coming out of capital projects.
IMF funds.
Yeah, it's the infrastructure maintenance. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
My other question is the experience of the contractor related to this type of work, particularly because of the paint. Have they done this before?
Yes, they have. They've done this kind of work. They're local. They did the Rome Cable in Rome, the Rome Cable site, which was a industrial site where they had to remove some similar towers and structures that had hazardous materials associated with them.
Okay.
I've used them before too. They're very, very reputable.
Well, and I'm
Very
sure
good
they are.
firms.
My concern is the hazardous materials. Making sure we get a contractor with experience with that, because all you need is somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, and it becomes a nightmare. Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you.
And insurance.
Anybody else? A motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The next resolution regards Valley View generator replacement.
Yep. This action involves the award of a contract to repair the emergency generator that serves the Valley View pump station at 198 Valley View Road in New Hartford to Oneida Electrical Contractors. The existing generator has been out of service for more than 6 months, and the Muck Valley Water Authority has been paying for a rental of a portable generator to be on site until this repair is done. We did get a low bid. We got three bids with this for this contract, and we're proposing to award it to Oneida Electrical.
Again, this is another item that we've been aware of for some time. And we're paying how much a month for that rental?
4,500 roughly.
So that should be incentive for us to move forward.
And the delivery time on the generator is what's been prolonging some of this rental as well.
But it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Any questions regarding this for Dan or Pat? Motion? Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Rich. Any further comments or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Renewal of the FMLA policy, which is in your packet. And my understanding is the new policy is just a reflection of adding current law, new law that's gone into place.
Exactly. And if you had a chance to peruse this, right on the front page, under the leave entitlement section, the last bullet point really just talks about veterans and adding them, military members, etc., to the policy. That was a change in law that occurred at the federal level, I think in 2019. But the policy was not up to date to reflect that. Sandra Dare, coming on board as our personnel director, has been going through all of our policies just to make sure they're consistent with current law, discovered that discrepancy. So this has just been updated to reflect that. Not a lot of discretion. It is federal law. We have to abide by it, but the existing written policy didn't reflect this change. So it's kind of straightforward.
Any questions regarding this? A motion to approve. Thank you, Betty. Was the second on that one, Mark? Was that you? Yeah. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The committee reports, Jim?
Yes. In your packet or in your binder is the July monthly report. I wish I had some good news, but I don't. Consumption is down 7.4%. It's actually up a percentage from June. Water sales is down 700,000. It was at 530,000. We actually had a reduction in cash flow as well, but we have a pretty good positive. But we've already gone through and made some cuts to our budget in anticipation that this continues to be down for the year. We're hoping it rebounds, but the biggest culprit has been Wolf Speed, where we had budgeted for them and what they're actually drawing is a lot less. So those and a couple other big customers are down for the year.
And I don't want any confusion on that. We budgeted for what they told us they were going to need. We've never budgeted on a guess that somebody's coming in and we're going to make X zillion dollars. So that's on them.
Yeah, and it did decline, and Ann Melgrano, our customer service manager, and I did speak to Wolfspeed directly, and they apparently instituted some additional water-saving technologies and told us that for at least the next 12 months, the existing level of usage is probably going to hold pretty steady. Eventually, as production ramps up, we'll see the use begin to increase again over the next few years, but for the next 12 months and the purposes of estimating revenue in next year's budget, the number we have is, again, just what they told us, which is what we relied on last time.
Yeah, well, has the demand for their product gone up, gone down?
That I don't know. I know that they are producing chips, and they have regular round-the-clock, shifts going. They're selling them all. I think the demand is good. It's just a matter of their ability to produce as many as they want right now is somewhat limited, and they have instituted some water conservation.
Is there any type of negative part to them estimating too low or too high? In other words, if there's no, let's call it a punishment financially, so we take it in on chin and not them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's our. We could ignore the projections and try to guess on our own, I guess, but
We have a rate schedule in effect. They just get charged according to their rate schedule, but there was no guarantee on their part they'd use any particular quantity. There was no guarantee on our part that they'd get any particular price other than the rate schedule. So they're just another customer, and if they use more, they pay more. If they use less, they pay less.
As a new business, that's where we got our original numbers.
Right.
From now on, we have experience, so we make our own
Yeah,
projections.
definitely. Have to
But
do our own budgeting based on what's
initially, this is what,
And I think they anticipate continuing the level that they're at, which is down.
happening.
Did we have any direct cost on bringing water up to them?
No, all the improvements that were done in and around that site were paid for by the state.
Oh,
Edge got about $40 million from New York State to run the lines in there and do some local improvements surrounding the site. Because their usage is somewhat marginal, there wasn't a whole lot we had to do further up line to the treatment plant or anything like that. Initially, when the whole project was coming in, we were told that at full production they'd use about 1.5 million gallons a day. Even that number has been somewhat downsized now, and they're saying 1.0 to 1.1 million gallons a day at full production. I think it's because of some of the recycling they're doing in the plant that originally wasn't built into the design.
We're not losing out on
we're not losing
return on investment or anything
right.
like
We
that.
didn't borrow any money to help make that project happen, nothing of that sort. So it is just revenue at this point. Yeah. And we are told that they will be back up to about 1 million gallons a day at some point, but that may be 2 or 3 years down the road from now, as production continues to expand.
Yeah, well, there's no harm in us budgeting based on experience.
Exactly.
And they're not the only ones that are down. We have a whole list that we've been monitoring. Oneida County Sewer's down, Matt's Brewery's down. There's just some of them.
with all the Utica Club I've had this summer, they're down.
Oneida County Sewer has changed their method of operation, so you got to anticipate.
Years ago, they went down by 50%, and they're continuing to go down. They're one of our larger customers.
But you must have seen that the FDA is going to be issuing new guidelines. It's going to recommend no more than 2 beers a week. So the brewery use might go down even more. Who knows if people follow that guideline?
Like, I believe the government on anything.
It's only a guideline. It's not a requirement.
I think all of you have our budget calendar. So we're on track. We're actually right on track. If you go to the August month, I think it's the first page in, second page in, second page in. So we just, we have one more meeting with department tomorrow, and we should be through reviewing all the budget that were presented. And then we'll assemble more, and we should be on track for having we have scheduled in September our budget workshop. So
we have to have the budget in place?
By October 31st is the deadline. So we've met that. So it's going to be a tough one this year, I think. I haven't gotten it all together, but we'll do the best we can before we get to our first budget workshop to pare it down some.
Any questions for Jim? Thanks, Jim. Pat?
Couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. First and foremost, we did have a retirement in the last few weeks. Actually, at this point, it was almost 5 weeks ago. A gentleman named Chris Carmody, who worked in our engineering department, did a lot of field work, monitoring construction projects, etc. Retired after 27 years here. He did a great job. So just want to mention we wish him well in his retirement. His position hasn't been refilled yet. We're still doing a little bit of a negotiation with County Civil Service on some modifications to the requirements, the qualifications, etc. In the meantime, however, we did have a brand new employee coming on board. Started on August 7th. His name is Christopher Downs. He's in the title of assistant engineer, which fills one of 2 vacancies that we've had in engineering that predate Dan's arrival. However, Dan was able to put Christopher out in the field to monitor some of the work that's been going on. The big project is a DOT project up in New Hartford where they're redoing the entire road. There's a whole section of water main being replaced, and at least Christopher Downs has been able to fill in now for a few weeks for Chris Carmody, and that job is winded. The water main work is going to be done in about 2 weeks. Is that 3 weeks? And then we'll be able to bring him back in, and Dan will be able to start integrating him a little more into some of the activities that we envisioned when we hired him. Also, tomorrow we have a brand new engineer coming in. He's going to be occupying the title of senior engineer. His name is Jeremy Fennell. Dan actually worked with him for 6 years or so in the past, knows him well, and I think he's going to be a very good fit for us. They both have bachelor's degrees in civil engineering. Christopher had a little over 6 years, coming in at a little bit of a lower level. Jeremy's got closer to 20 years experience, somewhere thereabouts. Is going to be able to do a lot of high level stuff. He'll be predominantly managing our capital program as well as doing other stuff to help Dan out. But once he's on board, we'll be at full strength in our engineering department. And I think right now almost every vacancy in the organization is filled, with the exception of, potentially 1 or 2 at the yard where somebody's out on workers' comp or something like that. And then the one position I mentioned where we had the retirement. So things are going pretty well. We've been managing to bring in some good people despite the economic climate and the competition out there. I think we have some good picks. So I just wanted to share that with you. Also, wanted to mention that Ann Milagrano, who's not here today, she and I had some virtual meetings last week with representatives from both Congressman Brandon Williams' office, who's on the Appropriations Committee, and also with a representative from Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's office. She's on the House Environmental Committee. But the topic was this, what they call LIWAP, which is the Low Income Water Assistance Program, kind of like the home energy heating thing. That's helped us out tremendously with a lot of lower income level water customers who have been struggling to pay some bills. And the LIWAP program, or LIWAP, has been very, very helpful to us. However, it's set to expire, and the state has announced they're no longer taking applications after October, and the federal funding for that is going to go away. Right now, there's a new appropriation to extend the HEAP program, the home energy, but not the water component of it. So AMWA, AMWA, one of the associations we belong to, it's the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, is doing a very hard advocacy push to get the LIWAP program extended and refunded. And so because we have congressional reps in our area that are on appropriate committees and we use the program, Ann and I shared experience with them, and they seem willing to get involved in the fight and try to carry it forward. So with a little luck, maybe we'll get a fresh appropriation for that. And it's been helpful to us. Jim can tell you it's been keeping our collections rate up where it ought to be right now. And a number of accounts that may have gone delinquent have been being paid through this program. So we'll see how it goes. We'll keep you updated on that. Also, a little while back, we sent out an email to all of you about a press conference we were holding on lead service lines. Unfortunately, the turnout was good. So Senator Griffo came, Assemblywoman Button Sean came, and Assemblyman Brian Miller came. All three of them brought with them letters of support because we're going to be applying through the Environmental Facilities Corp for funding to help absorb some of the costs that we're going to incur over the next year to try to develop a lead service line inventory that needs to be turned in to the health department by next October, a year from this October. There will be some costs incurred in that, and we'll be applying for funds. So we have 3 letters of support from our local state representatives. Hopefully that'll get us some of the funding that we need to continue the program without having to pay for it directly out of our customers' pockets. So that portion went very well. The downside is we got no media coverage out of it because those tornadoes ripped through town the night before, and all the news crews were out chasing down tornado damage and interviewing victims and such. So, but nevertheless, as I said, we got the letters of support, so that was a good thing. Anyway, I guess there was some nice Facebook postings with some photos. Nevertheless, we're working on the lead service line inventory. We do have an application going in at the end of. Did it go in Friday, Phil, or is it this week? It went in Friday. That's what I thought. So last Friday, the application was due for the funding for that program. We'll see how we do. The letters of support go right along with it. Other than that, I was just going to say that Hinkley Reservoir, as of last Monday, when we would have had this meeting, was at elevation 1224.5, which at the time had it 6 inches from the top of the dam, which in the 3rd week of August is unheard of. It's gone down a few feet over the last week, but we're still at 1221.5, close to 1222, very close to the top of the dam, and that's a great place to be at this time of year.
Yeah.
I imagine the Canal Corp will be a little bit worried about flood control as we head into the fall if the rains continue.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was very, very low. You may recall in June, it was about 9 feet below normal. Now it's about 5 or 6 feet above normal. So quite a turnaround. And rain has been very helpful to us. That's all I have for now, unless anybody has any questions on anything in particular.
Thanks, Pat. Any old business? Any new business? Do we have to go in executive session?
Oh, no, we did have a tentative executive session scheduled for a potential memorandum of understanding with the bargaining units. That's not ready to go yet, so we pulled it.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.